Yes. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View and welcome back to episode 61 of the Trinity podcast. Yes, there we go.
It was late, man.
It was
late. It wasn't really turned on. I had to turn it on just after the matter, but it was there still. So,
Well, just like United, left it late, but got it done in the end. Yeah, that's what it's all about. Yes.
Absolutely.
Big up to everyone watching. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, when it comes to every single episode of the Trinity podcast, you can see right above Marcel's head right there. This show is proudly brought to you by Oxford Natural by Gowing Life. You scan the QR code, you can subscribe and get up to 70% off your digest. We're going to be digesting the result last night, and digestion is very important. Gut health is wealth, yeah? Gut health is linked to everything, whether it's your brain gut axis affects all sorts of stuff. You don't want to be doing a kg, going for a nervous poo before the match or anything like that. Last night, maybe that was the digest working. You know what I mean? That's part of it. So scan the QR code if you want to know all of the information about it. Your post and probiotic links in the video description below. You can find out more, and you can check out the video with Fleck and Dr. Andre as well. We've got another Dr. Andre video coming up soon as well. He's going to be talking all about hamstrings, considering that Joshua Xerxes' season was cut short due to a hamstring injury. So check that out when it comes out. Guys, first of all, Mr. Marcel, welcome, filling in for Fleck today. Now, there was so much going on yesterday. Obviously, we're coming off that madness that is last night. Manchester United 4-5, Lyon 4, going through to the Europa League semi-final. 3 goals in 7 minutes. I haven't really even looked at the group chat that much. I felt it like just pinging on my watch as the game was going last night. What was your reaction to all of it? Were you positive the whole time? Did you believe? And how are you feeling now?
Positive the whole time, yes. Believed in Manchester United performing or winning this game, yes. Expected that kind of dramatic, chaotic ending. Definitely not. But it's Manchester United all the same. So I remember tweeting before, like, anything can happen at Old Trafford. When you arrive at that stadium, as you're walking there, you have to believe anything can happen. It's the theatre of dreams. So it's like at any moment something can happen. And Maguire kind of puts it quite nicely. We got it done, in a difficult way, or it was the hardest possible route that we've taken. But my gosh, it's something that inspires, and something that is just beyond fathoming at times in that stadium. And I don't even know how to process it. Similar to yourself, was going lightheaded, at moments, especially towards the last, the 3 moments, the 3 minutes, the last 3 minutes of the game. And was ecstatic in the same way that KG was, within the last 3 minutes of the game as well. So just something, Scott McTominay spoke about last season, an out-of-body experience, when I think he hits 2 goals against Brentford, I believe, or something like that. And that's the kind of moments that Manchester United Football Club, and in particular Old Trafford, and hopefully we can harvest that feeling and emotion, that ambience, and carry us through to this Europa League final and beyond, really. And just that feeling that the fans kind of have and that they're able to create. Usually we have that kind of I want to say personality, Owen and KG, where and the chat, where it's like we have to, the players have to show us something first. But if we can behave like that from the get-go, Bruno had an interview before with the fans inside the stadium, funny enough, talking about the only thing he can really ask for is for them to believe. It's for them to believe, and have faith, and that's the one thing. Well, believe mainly, having faith is, I think they're cousins anyway. They're the same thing in my mind. But he asked for belief, and for me, that's what you got to have as a Manchester United fan at all moments and at all times. And boy, oh boy, having that. We should come into the stadium having that. We should come into the stadium sounding, having that ambience and carrying that with us, because it produces moments like that, man. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful moment. The ebbs and flows of football, the ups and downs. You really do think after Laka slaps that penalty into the corner, you think, okay, yeah, well, and a lot of people must think that. But, it's a squad game, and he brings on players. He brings on Kobe, and Kobe's just got that in his DNA. He really, really does. I've seen that countless of, well, not countless countless, but I've seen that on a good 4 or 5 occasions. And even him, when he speaks after it, he just looks like he's not overwhelmed by it.
Back to Kobe.
Yeah, he doesn't look like that's overwhelming to him. He just says, look, yeah, that's what I had to do. It felt like a mile. And boy, oh boy, it does when you're in that, when you're on the rush of 5 or 6 legs trying to tackle you and all these things. But just calm as you like, chopped it, slaps it in the corner, nice and easy. Just all these big, big moments. I even see Fleck going crazy. I see everybody going crazy. It's just beautiful, beautiful to see. And that's part of football, having that. Sometimes when it just looks all dark, Manchester United, light of the tunnel, seen it all, won a lot.
KG, man. I mean,
very poetic from Marcel.
Yeah,
man.
it was very poetic. How are you feeling? I mean, I know we were chatting before we even started recording this. Like, I couldn't sleep last night. Couldn't sleep. I was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I could see KG was tweeting, and I thought,
I couldn't sleep. No, there was no way I was getting to sleep, like, because it was just too ridiculous, you know. And we say this, like, you know, many times I know people always talk about league finishes and stuff, but football's about winning trophies and those memories, you know, like that's what it's all about. Like not saying it goes out the window, the league form and stuff, but that feeling you can't bottle up. It'll be too expensive. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you can't get that. Like, how everyone felt yesterday was mental. We could have went through 2-0 and we would be like, yeah, all right, cool, let's see what happens. You know, we move into the next phase. But to go in that manner, that fashion, that way, it's just, this club is ridiculous at doing it the hard way. We've done that. That's not a surprise to Man United fans. They've seen that. I always thought that the Liverpool one, you know, was on a stream doing the Liverpool one, and then
the Ahmad one. Yeah.
We have a moment in the game, we're like, hang on, we're still in this. Remember, there was a little moment of, they haven't hit all their chances. Oh, and I think we're still in this game. And it's a madness, isn't it?
Yeah. It's Ahmad last minute. And again, we were 1-0 down for the majority of the game. Then Anthony scores right at the end of full time. And then, what do we go? I think we go 2-1 up in extra time, and then they go 3-2 up in extra time. But it was very nip and tuck. And it wasn't that last night, was it? It wasn't nip and tuck last night. It was just miraculous.
No, we were dead.
Yeah.
And when it went to 4-2, I was thinking, all right.
We said we're out. That was the first thing you said. I remember literally it went in and KG went, we're out. That's it. We're out.
Over. Like, I saw Lacazette running and I thought, damn. And then the stream was so silent, because all I was thinking about is, we've celebrated, we've done the tunes, I'm in here with my daughter, we've done everything that you shouldn't probably do. Fonseca's still like saying we shouldn't have celebrated how hard we did, you know what I mean? And they're thinking, bloody hell, we've gone further than that. But then I thought, it's going to get crazy with the Man United fans, because straight away I'm getting into kind of Amorim defense mode of, guys, we can't blame the manager. APA, Amorim Protecting Agency, because I'm telling you now, it felt like now everyone's going to come for the manager, because it felt like the pitchforks were out and people are looking at the manager, and it's like, well, you can't really look at the manager in a situation like this where we surrendered a mad lead, and I don't know how we done it, but this is not on the manager type vibe, you know. And then after, I'm still not having it. It's on the manager. I'm not having that.
I don't know, KG.
I think Mazraoui being out of that back five makes a huge difference, because those were well coached and well drilled, and then him having to leave due to family reasons, and then bringing on a man that hasn't played a lot of football in Luke Shaw, clearly wasn't fit, not sharp, doesn't understand the team motions and stuff, plays a big difference. And then you get people probably overcompensating. We've done that with the goalkeeper, overcompensated for him and done something foolish when you should just do the routine stuff. Routine moments where it's like, you lot know what to do there, but I thought there's a lack of trust in the back four when we needed them to be resolute and together. So we conceded 4 goals when Mazraoui's off the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I think the criticism, which I think would have been fair criticism of Ruben, would have been the fact that you can see 2 goals against 10 men in extra time at home, and actually it was still very 50-50. That shouldn't happen. You know, you see big teams, big clubs, Ruben? Because, you know, you're still playing the 5 defenders, and you're still getting behind the ball. You're not really playing proactive. We played much more direct and proactive once we conceded the 4th goal. Then suddenly we're trying to get the ball in the box. Suddenly we're trying to go a bit more direct and not sit behind the ball. And I think that criticism would have been fair of him. But at the same time, as we've always said, you live and die by your decisions. The sticking Maguire up front, it worked. Bringing Cobby on, it worked.
This is and he brought on
those decisions did work.
Cobby, and even Ericsson, like he wanted more football. Like the managers could make changes, but I think the players on the pitch have to carry out what the manager's looking for.
Because combination.
It's them that didn't take charge of the game and said, you know what, we're gonna play at the tempo that we need to play it at and make it difficult for these guys. We just, again, there was loads of silly moments of the ball breaking down, and we saw a similar goal to the Elanga one without the passing. You know, when he runs, we was on the attack, we lose the ball high, and for some strange reason, we can't get there to chop the man down, and they score. That's similar. Like, how close is that to that in that game to the Elanga one? That's someone that just runs. And that player was so dangerous, but how did we all get caught out in that moment and didn't have the follow-up? So there's little bits like that. But
yeah. But I mean, look, I think like you said, his subs, they did work. Obviously, he brought Cobby on, put him in the false 9, he scores, it worked. He brought on Mount for Ugarte. He could have kept Ugarte on and taken Casemiro off. Casemiro gets how many assists towards the end of the match? Obviously, he brought off Dorgu, put on Harry Amas. I think Amas played better than Dorgu when he came on as well.
Brilliant decision.
Exactly. So those ones did pay off. So, but then this has always been my point. It was the same with Ten Hag of, we have to get out of this mentality of if we lose a game, the players are just criminals. It's never the manager's fault. And if we win a game, it's genius by the manager. It's always a combination of both. It's always been that. But
people jobs. He was gonna.
Yeah, I didn't think lose a job.
If we lost today, this Trinity is very different.
Of course, it'd be very different. I think that my worry was that it would have been the manner of how that we would have gone out. That would have been very similar to 7-0 against Liverpool at Anfield, in that the next day Ruben didn't lose his job. He didn't lose his job for a long time, but that's a point. It's a stain which people will always circle back to. So with Ten Hag, when you talk about obviously the positives of winning the cups, they will always circle back to but that Liverpool game 7-0 at Anfield. And you've also felt like we never sort of recovered after that. You know what I mean? Yes, we went on to win the FA Cup, but we never really sort of got over that. That was still there. And I kind of just worried that, he'd be there through the summer. He's going to get players in, blah, blah, blah. But if we then had a bad start to the next season, people would always circle back to but that game against Leon. But that's not a reality now. So I think there's positivity. Marcel, do you think I don't say name on the trophy, I don't like that, but do you think it's a case of that is a turning point for Amorim, a galvanizing moment? It's the Sir Alex Mark Robbins moment, or what have you?
Yeah, it's definitely energy that we can harvest into that direction. It goes into that kitty of, this is why we should be the winners of this tournament. It goes into that kitty of, rest players for your league games now, please. They do not matter, and it's something that he spoke to straight away. Yeah. I think he really understands that moment now. You played extra minutes as well and extra time, so more sacrifice, more commitment. Europe puts its body and soul on the line. Players put their body and soul on the line. So you need to really rest players now. And I was calling for it weeks and weeks ago. Play the youth players. I want to see 5 or 6 of them. Where's Morehouse? I've been screaming a mass for the longest time now. Even if you get Dorgo on the right wing side, I don't prefer Delo, but Delo contributes in a big way when we're talking about a squad game. And KG mentioned it a few weeks ago about out of desperation. I don't want to misquote you, but there was times where he's saying we're in these predicaments out of desperation. He has to play player X here, player Y here. That's more of that this season. None of these players are his, Owen, except for one, Dorgu, who's 20 years of age, coming into his own. So everything in this situation right now, and we should be looking at the eyes of, it's in desperation. So I understand what you're saying, Owen, but for me, I believe there's a percentage on things. That's the terminology or the understanding we should be using on it. There's a percentage of things. And I agree with KG, or I would say to KG's point, is that the percentage is way more heavier on the players than it could ever be on this manager. Yes. It's almost 87, 90 for me % on the players, 10% only on the manager. The manager's trying out of desperation to put holes in round pegs and squegs and negs and legs. So it's a thing where he has to be able to, you know, fix these situations, and that brings him to where he tries Kobe, you know, for one situation in one game up front, I think many moons ago, and it didn't really work and it looked bad, even though he looked brilliant in the left hand, which he should have kept him there, but he learned from it. But then, you know, this situation calls for him to do it again, to false line again. And we would all look at him and said, why? But you should have learned that. But then lo and behold, Kobe grabs the game in the last seconds for us. Very confident manner. So it works. But that's why when we're talking about in the summer, it's so pivotal that this summer's good. And that, like I've been saying for a long time for Ten Hag as well, outgoings are just as profound as incomings this season or this summer. It really, really is. It frees up positions in this squad game for us. So I would say that, you know, he has to harvest that energy, that ambience, that noise, that sound, you know, and he has to rest players now. The league games do not matter now. I want to see these young players. I want to see Obi Martin. I want to see Morehouse. I want to see Amas. I want to see Collier. Please play them.
Kone. You could Kone.
Yeah. I want to see them. Oh, that's a very good name as well, Owen. I want to see them, please, Ruben.
Will let us know again if we can take one thing, like even watching what Arsenal's done this season with Skelly, Wanyeri, but Skelly especially. Sometimes the kids are just ready. Sometimes you look at a player and you say, you know, you can play a bit. Because now when I look at Man United, because we have our own youngsters as well, and obviously he's not like a youngster that we've developed in terms of Euro, but you're looking at Euro, Heaven. Now if I'm trying to build that back three that go on in this tournament, I can't tell you who's going to be in there, because I feel like Maguire has to be there. I feel like De Ligt has to be there. I feel like Euro has to be there. And I feel like Managerial has to be there.
Yeah. And even Heaven, if he hadn't got injured, he'd be playing. He'd be playing.
This is what I'm saying. So then after, like, even when you go in further into this thing or this tournament and stuff, you're saying to yourself, well, what's the best? Because I saw Euro. He was vital yesterday. I don't know if people are giving him, he doesn't play the pass that Lissandro can play, but he's going to run into the space. So Lissandro will play that pass and he was brilliant. What Euro was doing was getting the ball, and he was a defensive ball carrier. Was carrying that ball into midfield. He even got someone sent off. He gets clipped. How many times do you know a centre back that is getting taken down because he's dangerous on the offensive? Like, that doesn't even make sense. But the way Man United are now looking at different types of players for this system that is cost a lot, that is a big part. Now, I feel that Euro can't be dropped. But then I need what Maguire was doing. Them switches are insane. What he's able to do is mad. What do you do, guys? It's the little Mazraoui. What are you lot doing?
It's tough. It's tough, isn't it? Yeah, because like you said, he's got options, and I think you're right. The Lewis Skelly example for Arsenal is a really good one, and I've mentioned this many times when it comes to youth players. Is as someone that's been on trial at pro clubs, whatever, it's just about luck. Sometimes the best players, they're not even the best players that make it, aren't even the best players in the academy. It's just opportunity. It's just a case of right place, right time. Someone gets injured. Look at Marcus Rashford, how he got into Manchester United's first team of, oh, someone's injured. Martial's injured, so you can get on the bench. Then next thing you know, you're playing, you're scoring goals, and you've got a career at Manchester United. Lewis Skelly at Arsenal this season, they had injuries at fullback. Was it Timber got injured? Calafiori had a couple of injuries. Next thing you know, he's playing, and guess what? He's like one of the best players on the pitch at the Bernabeu midweek. So I think you're right. I think play those young players. I mean, Amorim's basically said that's what he's going to do. So it's going to be really interesting to see who plays against Wolves at the weekend. And also, like to your point, KG, suddenly you might actually see, we've got more options than we thought when it comes to these bigger games, which is really positive. And when it does come to Amorim and the late comeback, what I will say is it doesn't feel like a coincidence, because I remember one of the last games that Amorim had as the sporting manager, they were playing against, was it Braga? I think it might have been Braga. And they were down like 2-0 or something like that late on. They won at 4-2. Like he's for whatever reason, whether it is just you're a lucky guy or whatever, and he says sometimes I'm a very lucky guy. But he's had a lot of games like that last night where he's down and then late on score a couple of goals. You know what we used to say about Ollie? He's just a bit lucky. That's not the worst trait in the world, you know. I'll have a bit of luck, because what we saw last night, Sir Alex Ferguson, I mean, his Old Trafford dynasty was built off late goals, not being necessarily the best team in the game, scoring twice, winning a Champions League because of it. Makeda, Michael Owen. I mean, you can name your Paul's goals at the Etihad, Van Persie at the Etihad. I mean, how many late goals can we talk about? Steve Bruce header, Sheffield Wednesday. We can talk about millions of them. And if you can get into that as not a pattern, but if you can get it into your players, your own players' heads of, it doesn't matter what the score is, it doesn't matter who the opposition is, we can always score with the last kick of the game. We can always get, and then in the opposition, they think that too. They think that too. They always go, I know we've battered Man United for 90 minutes here. I know we're the better team. I know we're 1-0 up, or we're 2-1 up, or we're 2-0 up, whatever the scoreline may be. It's in their head going, but they could still score. They could still score. And then if you've got that, that's half the battle. That is half the battle.
Mate, and I'll go to Marcel. Like, there's something that the manager does when we are 2-0 down and we're getting into the second half. You see him, he's got his tactical board. And he's like, because I thought he was just doing that thing that he does. You know, the crouch that he does when he's just really pissed off. I didn't realize he had the little whiteboard and he's moving the markers like, you're going to go here, you're going to go here. There's body language that says to you, well, this ain't over. Because if I turn and look at my leader's planning for the next half. Like, because I sat there when Lacazette scored, I thought it was done. It's over now. He's looking at saying there's still time. Now, that's got to inspire me as a player. I look at my manager and he's planning the next, because you don't do that for no reason. You either just give up and you say, guys, just well done, you're giving your all. Just don't embarrass yourself. Some people get to that stage. He's like, we can try and do something. That does something. That sets a message, you know. And he said he watched the documentary, the 99 documentary, bro. So again, if you got that fresh in your mind, look how many people have been inspired by that 99 documentary. McTominay said he watched it before a game as well, didn't he? Then we came back and scored those goals in that one where McTominay scored
against Brentford, yeah, with the late one, yeah, literally. I'm just looking at the Sporting result of this is the one I was talking about. It was his final game as Sporting manager. They were 2-0 down at halftime against Braga away, and they won the game 4-2. 3 of the goals came in the last 10 minutes. 3 of them. Just turn it around like that. It's not a coincidence that keeps happening to him.
No, and he's loved. Another thing that I have to say is, you'll look at that, again, there's going to be things that is gets praised for, things that you'll look at, because his Onana decision was massive for this club. It was massive. Yeah. It was, you live and die by those decisions. Had it gone wrong, he would have been flamed. And you bought this guy and you pull your arm around him. But something about a manager going to bat for a player and the player just witnessing that, because that was a hard press conference where they was doing everything to get him to turn on Onana. And he goes, listen, he actually sets them right in that thing, saying, I've given him some time off. He needed it. He's back. He will be playing in that game. He doesn't usually give us that much information. And then what you learn is when that moment does happen, look where Onana runs to when they finally score. Onana beelines from goal to him. He picks him up, and then he does that kind of kicks out at Onana. Yeah, because you have to understand something is they've bonded in that moment of I was at war and you had my back. I was getting through my darkest moment, and even buying Deer's reaction to that's not a team. He was with him. Sometimes you have the backup keeper is probably thinking, he hates the other guy. But I'm saying the connection that he's trying to build, these are the other things. These are the pieces that probably the variables that people are not really putting on the manager. Another thing that I must say is Klopp did this beautifully. And this is the part that I always thought, wow, every time that Liverpool had a big game, Klopp will be like, the fans, I need you. I need these fans to do something for me. And what Amorim is doing perfectly, the way he calls on the fans, and he says, I know we don't deserve it. I've got no right to call on those fans. But if they can give us something, we would more than appreciate it. And it goes a long way. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Marcel.
Everyone's just continuously hitting the nail on the head right now. And just to add to it, I mean, he's going on feeling. a lot of the time when he's getting the board out, when he's looking away at training from the distance, he's searching for the feeling and the the frequency of the team. How are they behaving when I'm not looking or when I'm far away? You know, how does the stadium feel? How does the game and the moment of the game feel? And sometimes he gets that wrong as a manager. I remember speaking to, you know, last minute goals. A lot of that was happening, or very early goals. A lot of that was happening in the beginning of his tenure. All of a sudden a goal was happening, you know, we're retrieving games in last minutes, or we're playing really back against the wall type football. So I think he's understanding in terms of feeling and moments to pick. I think it's really good. I think he's really been able to grasp that, and because he's new to the league, that's gonna get better as time goes on, you know. And he's a young manager as well. I think at this stage now, he needs to get that trust into some of the youth players coming up, that are coming up from the academy. And I'm just really happy that he's been able to get this win, and that he has to build on this now. He really does, because I believe in this manager. I believe that he can retrieve the Europa League and get us into Champions League, and I believe he can do more. He can go further than that. He can go a lot further than that. It's just now he needs the backing. He needs that backing from the players, because, you know, he spoke about characteristics. It's a brave move to say that. To me, Maguire looks like a striker in that moment, for that condition and that moment of the game. Somebody that's dominant in the box. I looked at the characteristics of all the players and what I was able to me, and that looked like a striker to me in that moment. Those characteristics look like striker type characteristics. I needed people to cross the football, and I needed someone dominant in the air. So that's going to be a striker in what I'm trying to produce in this moment. They're going to strike. Once I get those crosses in, they're going to be able to take up the right areas. It's really beautiful how he's breaking down the game. And then, you know, he's also understood the happenings of the previous managers. It's almost like he's done his research on what happened with Ten Hag. He's done his research on Ole. He spoke to all these things in his previous interviews. So, and then to double down on that, because that was nasty, wicked, envious journalism in that journalism. Because he said, he doubled down on that. You get to ask the questions, I get to give the answers. And that's just a strong character, and a very articulate character. Something that unfortunately Ten Hag wasn't able to do. But he's got more of a balanced system. He can speak so well, and like KG is kind of speaking to there, he's got the faith of the players. And I think in the same vein, by the way, he's gonna have to be cutthroat in the summer. Some people are not going to make the journey with us, but that's part and parcel of what he's been able to do, and that speaks to his abilities as a manager.
Well, you know, when you talk about being cutthroat, it's so funny how the media like to revise things and stuff. And I think it speaks to the types of what we've seen before. Ten Hag made his decision with Jadon Sancho, and the articles was there. You know, it's an embarrassment that Jadon Sancho is getting to a final and could potentially win the Champions League, while Man United are doing this. You know, that was a big thing, right? And then again this week was, well, how silly was Amorim to let go of a great player like Rashford when we're seeing him be amazing. And, you know, his season Rashford could be playing Champions League, in a Champions League final where Man United are struggling in the Europa. Well, guess what's happened in this time? He's made a decision to get rid of two players who we needed. Like, let's just have it. We needed those outfield players. If we're playing Maguire up front, it just has to go to show, well, what's wrong then? Because Man United should never need to play Maguire up front. We have nothing left. But we did have a player that was there, but wasn't truly motivated for this manager. Not out of him being a bad player. They just didn't mesh. You know, those two didn't mesh, and he said, get out. But see, when you talk about him being ruthless, well, that's a ruthless decision. That already shows me that you can do that before. You basically cut off your nose to spite your face. We need those players. We needed an Anthony. We need attackers, bro. And now we don't. We're in this thing with one recognized striker and a guy that we didn't register in time. Bro, it is mental, but he's been willing to do that. It shows up, Eric. That shows us that when it comes to summer, he will make very rough decisions. But at the same time, youngsters can secure their playing future, because he said this about Heaven. He said, Heaven is now a player I now look at to say, I have that. And I thought that was amazing in the presser today. He said, I got Heaven. Like, I called upon him and I'm like, no, he's now one of my players. fantastic.
Yeah, I think also as well, what's positive out of it is, you know, like for instance, the Newcastle game at the weekend, everyone mostly went into that game going, we are going to lose at St. James's Park.
Yes.
Like Newcastle, they're one of the most informed teams in the Premier League right now. They are better than us. They are going to be in the Champions League next season. They just won a trophy. They're going to beat us, right? And they did beat us, but the manner of which we lost that's when it was going once again going, well, since Ruben's come in, he's only got X amount of points, X amount of victories, so many losses. But to Marcel's point earlier on, I do think now, not that people won't complain if we lose the games in the Prem, but I do think the mindset has finally shifted of the majority of the fan base now of just kind of like, let's say this weekend against Wolves. If we do lose against Wolves at Old Trafford, I do think people are going to be like, well, that's annoying, that's rubbish, but it's just Europa League. Focusing on Europe like that. We're at that stage now where we know this. It has become a write-off domestically in the Premier League. It's become a write-off, and I think the fans will not care about that now. So, to Marcel's point of the weekend, right, play the kids, and even if you don't, it is still a case of all right. We know we're rubbish in the Premier League. That's for next season. That's next season's problem. We're not going to get relegated. Now it's just about, can we get people back for the Bilbao game? Ahmad, can we get him back in time for maybe first leg might be a stretch, but certainly second leg, that's what sort of mid-May-ish. We can, maybe he could be back for that one. Delict should be back. That's another boost. Obviously Xerxes out for the rest of the season, but there are people we can get back in, and we do. And as much as it's difficult,
Mason being back. Carry on. Sorry.
Yeah. Cobby and Mason Mount being more available, that's massive too for us. And being fitter, that's really big. And ultimately, I know there's the chatter about Bilbao are good. They've got Williams and all that, but we have just got to believe. We for whatever reason this season, we are still unbeaten in Europe. We have yet to lose a game, and we've not. And some of those games we've not been great. On the other side of the draw, it's Bodo Glimt, who we've already played before. We beat. Granted, it wasn't their best team. They had a title decider, and they were focused on that, but we still beat them. Spurs, sod's law for them would be that they've beaten us 3 times a season. The time it really matters, we would beat them. It'd be sensational, wouldn't it? But I don't think. I look at, considering how it goes. Once again, the second leg in the semi-final, that's at home, which, as we've seen against Sociedad, against obviously Lyon last night, that Old Trafford factor for a team that's not been very good at home this season is critical, absolutely critical. So you would say even for the semi-final, game plan's the same. First leg, go out there, stay in the tie. If you can get a win, great. If draw, fine. Even if you do lose, if you lose by a goal, it's not the worst thing in the world. Just get back to Old Trafford and have the tie still going. Don't do an Arsenal against Real Madrid where it's game over in the first leg. Don't do that. And then that Old Trafford, magic things can happen. And
this season, when you talk about Nico and stuff, and don't get me wrong, like Garnacho has his annoyances, and I think it's a player that can be looked at to be sold in the summer. Yeah. But then what we have to say, because he was important in that game yesterday. Like, there was different players. When he takes those 2 players out with that touch and the cut back to Agate, that's the Garnacho I'm really looking for. That's the Garnacho of looks up and finds. Because Rasmus Højlund wasn't passed to in the box. Yes, and then
you saw the best and worst, didn't you, of him? You saw the best, which is, like I said, the Agate one, and the worst, which is he's through on goal, and for some reason he just hits it straight at the goalkeeper, and you're going, just literally place it, just pass it into the back of the net.
But then he's a threat, though. That's the one thing that you have to say about him. He's a threat. And we going into that game, they will be worried about what Garnacho's turning up. I never want to link him to, because Nani would done more for this club, way more. But I remember Nani being a very frustrating player because we wanted Nani to be Ronaldo, and we realized very quickly Nani's not Ronaldo. But Nani on his day could be devastating. And I will say that Garnacho in times, in moments, can be devastating. He can be. He was a big part of how we're playing out. The injection and pace and getting him behind. There was one moment that he creates for himself where he does hit a play into the goalkeeper's hands. He's a problem, and we need him to be on form. But luckily, what I'm excited about going forward, if Ahmad does return, because Ahmad will give us that what Bukayo Saka almost does for Arsenal in terms of you are something else to anything we have in this team. Ahmad presses like no man's business. Ahmad does things that you're like, I think is uncoachable. Like the same way Saka can look after the ball, he's so strong, can't be stopped. That's Ahmad. If the goal, he will harry any team. He's not giving up. Those goals that he scored against, was it Southampton when he turns the tie over? Is that the late ones? No other Man United player, no other Man United players doing that. But that's a mentality thing. That's someone that says, I'm gonna chase down literally everything. And I get more confident going into these games against Bilbao if he is available. If he's there, and I now have on both wings, if I have problems on this side, problems on the left side, problems on the right side. We haven't actually seen like a Dorgu with an Ahmad in the team. Remember, we stick to one wing. We was going down the Garnacho side. Imagine now having the right-hand side just as fluid, just as potent. It probably frees up more space for the striker or for the 10s, you know? So this is where I want to be excited about how this team's going to be playing going forward with this next pieces to come in.
Yeah, Marcel, you were saying before, weren't you, about Ahmad? You were saying about, was it best right wing back in the world? You said before. Where do you think he would play then, Marcel? Do you think he would play right wing back if he came back in? Now that you've got Cobby back, he could be a 10. Mason Mount back, obviously could be a 10. Bruno could be a 10. Like, there are legitimate options there. Eriksen as well.
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's I really want to hone in that, Ruben right now is trying to find solutions at all times. He hasn't got anything settled. He still needs Omar Barada to get players in for him and the system to get players in for him. But when you're looking at the predicament now, definitely he's the best right wing back in the world, and I can't imagine anyone being able to produce from those angles, attacking inward towards the pitch, behind him the crowd and the touchline, and creating plays in wide areas, so much space in tight areas. He's really good. He is really good, but I just think his creativity and his mind when he's out in the wing areas, he's not as direct as Garnacho, but he can connect play and he can be as direct as Garnacho at the same time. He's got so many facets to his game, very much a maverick type. Like what KG is saying, that he can produce. He's a match winner. He can really just do something that nobody else in the team can do. And then when we're talking about, you said, Owen, a little earlier, that we still kind of, the criticism of Ruben is the fact that he still had that back five in moments when he could have a forward five, should I say, because obviously the front three plus the two wing backs would make a forward five. That also speaks to the characters of the players. And that's why I give an extra percentage on the players when we distribute blame. Because yes, it is both, but it's the feeling of the player. His mind's eye should be, I want to attack. I want to step up 10 extra yards up the pitch and push this dynamic and push this situation forward. And when you have someone like Ahmad in the team playing right wing back, yes, and wants to press and defend and has that responsibility as a player to defend, which he naturally has, as we've seen from him, he also has that mind's eye of, I'm going to drive this football club forward. I'm going to step on an extra 10 yards and take more risks forward. I can play on the inside and I can play on the outside. Something that Delo doesn't really have, and Delo's naturally a right wing back, so you're not going to expect that from him. He's also right-footed, so he's naturally going to do more outside movements, whereas Ahmad is left-footed, so he's got the inside, and then his skill, his technique, his guile, his finesse, his panache means he can go on the outside as well. So it's like, you have that kind of option, and you need that option, even if it's for 30 minutes, because he's still coming back from an injury, even if it's for 40 minutes, even if it's at Old Trafford and we're screaming behind him and giving him that energy to keep producing for us. I think that's definitely an option there. Dorgu, if I could just quickly speak on that, Owen, I love this profile. I think he can play left centre back. I think Luke Shaw looks like he needs to be sold. I'm really upset that he concedes that penalty, and I think he's a left-sided centre back, but I don't know if he offers enough for us for the span of his career here. It's a tough decision that I think Ruben should make, but I think he needs to be sold. He's looking more and more like surplus to requirements. In contrast to Maguire, that's looking more and more like needs to be part of the squad, as a senior player, even if he's number 4, 5, or 6 out of the 6 that you need when you're playing 3 centre-backs in a football in a squad. You need maybe 6 or so. Maguire needs to be in that number and can play a multitude of games throughout a season. It's something where Dorgu... Go on, KG.
Now, I want to put another player that might have to be looked at as well. Casemiro, in terms of that leadership.
Yeah,
it might be. I know he's on a big wage, yeah, but Casemiro is doing things that I don't know if other players are gonna make those decisions that Casemiro's making. Even the likes of Bruno. I think Bruno might that ball comes to Bruno. I think he might shoot and stuff in them moments. Casemiro looked up for Kobe. He looked up for Maguire. Like he wins you can't. That is experience. That's a grown man on the pitch that said, "Hey guys, this is how we're gonna do this."
The Real Madrid gene kicked in. That's what it was.
Yeah.
The Real Madrid gene literally kicked in. That's
in the
what
words
it was.
of Bellingham, KG. The words of Bellingham. Remontada, whatever it is.
Remontada, bro. No, he literally said that, and I think that is leadership and experience. You know, we had that with Varane in that FA Cup final. Varane was not allowing any bullshit, and he even talks about in his article piece where he's like, "We decided we are not losing this game today.
Yeah, let's go win this one."
Yeah. No, it's amazing. It honestly is amazing, and I have to retract myself as well, because I'm like, I always would speak to Casemiro being like a 60-minute player, but in a squad throughout 40, 50 games, 60 games in a season,
came alive, didn't he?
Yeah, he comes alive. Maybe you need him in the big months. Maybe you need him in 25 games a season, and you rest him, and you get Toby, and having him around in the training facilities and just around the ground. Maybe he makes Toby Collier become a man and step up, and Sekou Kone draws from that experience, and they improve as players, and they get fast tracked a little bit because they've got someone that's been there and done it again and again. So maybe you do need Cas, and maybe you have to hold that and swallow that pill, and Rashi maybe goes because he's not really showing that acumen and that level, whereas Cas clearly is. But in the interest of Dorgu, I just think he's 20, he's young, so he just looks very much in himself. He looks very, very young. You know, Agate's coming into his own, but those that are hating on Agate, it's silly. He's just started this season, you know, and it's in a madness season again, like we had last season, a madness, and he wasn't part of it, I know, but neither was Dorgu's just come in January. So why are we trying to kill him like this? You know, he's not playing well. We need to maybe go into the market, and that's just an honest opinion that maybe Ruben has to do.
No, but it's competition, though. That's all he needs. Amas is there to now give him competition. He has something to think about. I don't think Delo has that.
Diego Leon.
Like,
yes, wow.
Diego Leon. So now, you know, what Delo doesn't have is somebody that's like breathing down his neck to play in the right-hand side. But now if I don't know, let's say Noose is there because of the situation of, well, I have Delit, I have Euro. I'm not leaving Euro out, by the way. There's no chance now. There's no chance. No way. Euro's playing. Maguire, people are not putting enough respect on those those diags. He plays them better than anyone. And we use it so much. It's a big part of our game. We switch out wide and there's someone going to be out there. So that back three for me is really important. Now with competition, because I don't feel bad about Dorgu. Dorgu was fighting relegation. At what team did we buy him from?
Lecce.
Yeah,
Lecce.
And now he's playing at the top level, in the highest level in this European competition for where it is. He wasn't doing that in front of 75,000. It's a big change. I'm not going to Xerxes the player. He's just getting through a bad moment now. He's got some talent because a little while ago when he did win us a tie, you know, when he's just running, he's getting players sent off and this, that, and the other. There's that. He's literally going through his time at Man United, and we just have to allow him to develop. You know, that's really what we have to allow. And if he's having a stinker, pull him out. Amas. That's what we had. But before, we could never pull the player out when it was going to shit. Like Rasmus, for instance. Rasmus has been having a stinker. Had we had another kind of cold striker, the pressure wouldn't be, we'll take him off. Rasmus comes in for 10, 15 minutes here and there, tries to get his moment. But it's just Rasmus. So you almost look at that sore thumb and think, oh, that's an omen there. And that has to change.
Yeah. So just finally, before we wrap things up, guys, maybe this is a bit premature, but simple yes or no answer. Given what happened last night, are we going to win the whole thing? Marcel, start with you.
1,000% yes.
1,000% yes. KG?
I've always felt that way.
I've always felt that way.
I
will go with yes also. I felt like that felt very significant last night, didn't it? That feels too big to ignore. And even if And I think it sends a message across the people throughout the competition still of like, yeah, but you realize if you play United, like they just won't lose. They haven't lost yet in this competition, and they're scoring 8 goals. Like
they're still
going to win it.
They're still got that United thing about them, which is
exactly
that part is there. That it's a part of them. Do you know what I mean? That's a big part of them. So, and I hope if it is Tottenham, that we can say they're gonna be, because that'll be their first big final, you know, in 6 years, right? Man United have been to finals, like those players, the actual players that we're talking
used
about,
to it. Yeah.
Are getting used to that feeling of, well, we've gone to finals, and there was a mentality of, you look at them on a European night versus them on a Premier League night. Mate, we scored how many goals? We scored in those last couple of European games. We scored 12 goals.
Yeah, there's like, well, at home it's 9 because we scored, was it 4-1 against Real Sociedad, 5-4 last night. Away from home, it was 2 against Lyon, and was it 1 against? Yes, it's a significant amount of goals, isn't it? You know what I mean?
That we don't score goals, but for some strange reason, we go into Europe and it's like a different team.
Yeah,
can happen. Anything can happen, and I believe we will win this tournament.
Yeah.
There you go, guys. There's some belief for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, as we said at the top of the show. Scan the QR code on screen, and you can subscribe to Oxford Natural by Gowan Life. You can get your digest and subscribe and get up to 70% off. Use the code UV at checkout. All the information is in the video description below. Big up to Marcel replacing Fleck this week. Big up to KG. You can subscribe to his channel, KG's Reckless Sports. You can subscribe to my channel, Owen Wrestling News 365. It's WrestleMania weekend. I'm not going to sleep for the next 4 days. It's going to be sensational. I went out and got my energy drinks, and I got my sweets. I got my, it's Easter weekend. Got my WrestleMania sweets. You got to. So it's going to be fun. So we will be. No sleep over the weekend. Love it. Anyway, guys, appreciate everyone for tuning in. We're out of it. Have a good weekend. Peace.